Hey guys, I'm back with another Starshot Onslaught update video. I'm very excited about this one. It's been a long time coming. I've actually been working on this portion of the project for I think about the last 2 years now at this point. The thing is, I started it 2 years ago when I first started learning how to work within the Unity environment, and I've even released a couple of videos in regards to it, such as first learning how to work with Unity and also developing the mobile game Bookworm within the Unity system as a sort of test to see how I can work with things. There were several special considerations I actually had to contend with while going through the process for updating the game or converting the Starshot Onslaught from Visual Studio 2017 to Unity. There are a few things I didn't even know about. Like, for example, in Visual Studio 2017, you can use integers as the primary method for having movement work or having movement set in the game. But whereas in Unity or within Unity, they use a floating point. So you have to I had to convert quite a few bits of code to take that into account. I also encountered an issue with restricted parameters for mono-class behaviors. So I kind of found out during the conversion process, that mono behavior has a restriction. It doesn't let you use parameters at all, or pass parameters, I should say, to a constructor for a given mono behavior class. Whereas in pure C# you can do that no problem. I also ran into an issue with the limits of the limited number of objects you can have in the hierarchy. If you're familiar with the game, you'll know that it contains, I would say, probably thousands, if not tens of thousands of objects that that all get stored into multiple master control or master arrays that get called at runtime. So basically, I had to continue with that. Also, in addition to it, there were several XNA types that needed to be converted, or rather needed to be recreated, I should say, in the Unity side that I could then work with, as well as fixing a few things with the movement equation in Unity. Now, in regards to one of the first things I had to think about was the design, the new design for Starshot Onslaught, in how it would be developed and displayed onto the screen. Basically, I essentially had to come up with a new model of design, one that would basically take the underlying code for the game and layer it or pair it with a portion of the game that then creates and displays game objects in Unity. And so to that end, what I came up with was a proxy class model. Essentially, the proxy classes are visual representations of all of the underlying logical objects, logical C# or pure C# classes that exist within the game. And it gets, whenever a new C# object gets created, it also creates a proxy object that then displays to the screen for Unity. In addition, I also had to rework collision detection, and it actually was a lot easier than I thought it would be, because all I had to really do is just, once I created a proxy object that represented the object in Unity, I just simply had to get it to transfer or recognize the collisions that were occurring between it and another Unity object, and then transfer that logic back to the pure C# objects that are underlying it. I've also added a few new things, a few new objects and classes along the way, but one of the more significant ones is the Unity object loader. And so basically, whenever a new Unity object is created, or actually I should say whenever a new Unity object enters the screen, I should say, or a certain range within the screen, this Unity object loader class essentially checks to see how close it is and then makes it or generates it accordingly. And it basically, and I'm kind of butchering it, it actually does this for the logical object on the underlying. So whenever you see a position, whenever the position of a logical object is close enough or within a certain range of the camera, it automatically generates the Unity object, or rather I should say the proxy object, according to where its current position is, and you'll then see it on the screen accordingly. So I did also spend a lot of time reworking a few of the base objects, or a few of the base classes. Like for example, with planets, rather than you relying on or utilizing a type of equation to determine where the player is on the player surface at any given point in time, what it now does is it basically, for every point along the surface of the planet that the player could be at, it automatically has values associated with it that will do things like adjust the player's sprite, orientation, rotation, etc. accordingly. Now there were, and that ties into the movement equation functionality I've run into. Now, like as I said, this is basically the first part. It's still a work in progress, but I think I'm far enough along in the project to where you don't have, where it actually looks similar to what it did before. I have encountered a few things, especially with a lot of the gun modifiers and how they operate. Like for example, laser cloud, if you're familiar with it, it basically, when you fired it, it created a triangle like shape initially, and then with the explosions at the tip of it. In Unity, it doesn't seem to take that same shape. There seems to be a lot of things that go on with how it calculates, and that might just come down to how it relies or how it utilizes floating point versus integer in that regards. Now, another thing I will also say, just going back with the Unity object loader, the object loader essentially another reason I added it in addition to complementing the new model proxy versus logical objects, the proxy versus logical object setup that I went for, is that it also reduces the amount of lag. So since there can be thousands of objects in the game at any given point in time, you can't simulate all of those thousands without it potentially lagging or crashing the game object at that point, or the entire hierarchy at that point in time. So at this point, if depending on where the player camera is at any given point in time, you'll only see maybe a couple of hundred of objects at any given moment, because of how close they are to the camera. Now, there are a few other things that I'm still checking into. I do have plans to add additional models. Well, I say models, but sprites, special effects, etc. In regards to, or new special effects, updated special effects accordingly. There are, and speaking of special effects, I've also added, I've reworked them entirely. So now, instead of relying on a specific object to generate, to a specific pure C# object to generate them and then display on the screen via a Unity object, instead now I'm using particle pools. And this essentially reduces lag further and allows me to do more interesting things with the special effects rather than just having a single sprite accordingly. So yeah, that's something I'm looking forward to, although it is a little bit more extensive than compared to how I was doing it the old way. I think it's going to be something interesting to go through. I've also reworked backgrounds via a dynamic background that basically follows the camera, but it's also animated as well. So it really pushes how it looks. It really makes it more immersive. Well, I think that's it for the for now. I'll keep you posted on any additional updates and changes I make to the game at this point. Thanks for watching.